ago, I over fertilized this plant, and things went really down, and I had to act so quickly so I could save it. But again, these plants, I just find they're quite resilient, and of course if it was more sensitive plant, I might not be able to save it, but I just wanted to share this video. So if you have happened to over fertilize your plant, what to do. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Urban Tropical. Let's talk about it. So of course we know our plants needs fertilizers, so I'm not going to go into that detail. The key question comes, when do they need to be fertilized? There is no easier way to tell. You just have to figure it out, and when you are having that plant for a long time, you just know. So the normal thing will be when plants are coming out of dormancy, they have started to grow, that's the time to fertilize. It can happen anywhere from March to May onwards, depending on the temperatures. So this time it has been a really cold spring for us in the UK, so plants are not really growing that much. So even if we are late in fertilizing, there is no harm in there. Earlier it's a problem, later we are good. So that's when we know we have to fertilize our plant. So, and the key signs to look for is a lot of growth. So for example, if I show you this one here, is putting up new growth so quickly, and if I give this plant fertilizer, it's going to enhance its growth, promote it, and it will do well. So the key thing is, fertilizers do not make your plants grow in any way. They only support the growth of your plant. So if this plant is not growing and I just give it a fertilizer, it's not going to make it do any better. It might do more damage to my plant than it will do any good. Think this way, if you are running a marathon and you are just running and running, and if someone gives you a bar of energy, you just get the more energy to run better or just run for a longer period. And if you are just sitting, someone gives you bar of energy, it's not gonna make you jump up and down. It will do nothing. Same thing happens for plants. So fertilizers do not make the plant grow. They just keep them growing if they are in the season. They just help them grow if they are. I hope I'm making this my point clear. So if your plant is not growing, giving fertilizer will not make it grow. That's the end of it. Then it comes to what kind of fertilizers we can use. There are so many fertilizers on the market. So the key things we look for is NPK. So normally you can have equal ratios of NPK, which is a nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So for our indoor house plants, we need higher nitrogen because it's all about the leaves. It's not about them producing flowers or fruits. But if you have a flowering plant, you can give it potassium as well, which I do for my strawberries in the garden. I give it just a potassium so it can produce more flowers and more fruit. But that's not the discussion here. We're just talking about NPK. Any house plant fertilizer will do. So normally I use seaweed, and the key thing is just dilute it a lot. And even though it's a completely natural product, that's what I used, and I burnt my plant because it was just too much, or the plant wasn't ready. Actually, it was just me being lazy. This plant didn't need any fertilizing, and I had some leftover, and I just put it in. Plant didn't need it, and there we go. I had to deal with this problem. The other one I use in my garden, which I use sometimes indoor as well, which is very rare. This one is Miracle Grow, and this one, it tells you at the back how much you can use it. Actually, it's so too much light, I can't. So you need only 1.25 ml in 1 liter of water. I even go lower than the recommended rates just to be safe. Now these ones are water solubles, and then you can have a slow release ones as well. There is one on the market for slow release. I'm just going to put the link in. It's so easily available in USA but not in England. It has a guarantee on it that you won't get any burn, any fertilization burn, which sounds really good for people who will really struggle how much to fertilize your plants. So I just think it's really cool if it was available in the UK, but it isn't. And the main important thing you can do is, if you want to avoid from too much fertilization, add worm casting. So every single plant in my house has worm castings in it. So worm castings are rich in iron and they have calcium. They do have NPK as well. So there is some fertilization plant can have all the time. So the cool thing about worm casting is even if you add it too much, it's not going to burn your plants. Like for example, if I add too much horse manure into my plant, it can burn it because of its acidic nature. Worm castings are very alkaline. Oh, sorry, it's not alkaline. I think it's more neutral. I think pH balance is between 6 to 7 somewhere. So they are more neutral. They will not burn your plant. Actually, I have grown seedlings just in worm castings. That's how cool they are. Otherwise my seed would have burnt. So the best bet you can use is worm castings. And this one for me is just a top up in the normal peak season for summer. So every 2 to 3 weeks I just do it very diluted version of either Miracle Grow, or I use any brand, and it's just a seaweed. So this one does not have any NPK information. It's just natural product you can use, but be careful, it can burn if you use too much. So just be careful there. So what happens if you have used too much fertilizer? So if you have used slow release ones, they are, for me, I will just change the soil. And because you don't need to flush out that one, it's like balls, they are in the soil, just to change it so that it's getting now not that much nutrition out of that. And if you have used these kinds, I find they are really easy to control if you have over fertilized. So when I over fertilized, I just flushed it out. So this my plant is just in this pot which has no drainage at the bottom. So I just took the root ball out and I just rinsed it so many times with the water so I can flush all the extra fertilization out and my plant can survive. So if you see in the image, all these bottom leaves go yellow. Now the point is, why do the bottom ones go yellow? So this is a really good telltale sign if your plant has been over fertilized. Because what happens is, this is what I do read a lot about plants. I don't know why, I just can't help it. So what happens is when you give your plant food, the way it absorbs is the oldest roots, which are the lower leaf ones, they will get the nutrition first, and after that the other root starts to absorb. So if you see, I mean, when I gave it the feed, which was a really seaweed, in 24 hours, half of these leaves here just went yellow in 24 hours. And I knew straight away it's caused by me, and I knew I can do it. And I mean, I kind of rely on this plant. It just does well anywhere. I mean, right now it's in no drainage and I don't have a root rot issues, which I normally get with all the philodendrons here. I'm going a bit off track, I'm so sorry. So I just had to flush it all out, and it was cool. So my plant is saved. So there are a few signs of over fertilizing. So your leaves can wilt or go yellow, and they will always be start from the bottom, because that's how rooting system works. And your plant will stop, it won't grow. And then, you know, if it's a growing season, something is wrong, you could have over fertilized it. And the other thing is, you can have sometimes the leaf burn or the browning, but that's the sign for too many problems. I will never know if the edges of my plant has gone brown, and I will think literally I have over fertilized. The only thing you can do is you can sometimes take your plant out, and if you see blackened roots, that only happens when there is a burn. So fertilizer has burned the roots and they go black and they are literally dead, and that's why your plant is suffering. So there are so many signs which will tell you have over fertilized. So I just think I really wish that you don't, because it's no nice feeling once you know your plant is dying. So it's quite easy to reverse it as well, but not for all the plants. Some don't survive. Sometimes you are just late in finding out. The last point I really want to mention, which actually happens to me sometimes, if I fertilize some plants and I don't fertilize the others, and I forget which ones I have fertilized and which one I haven't, and that's a problem. So now I have made a routine. If I don't have enough time, I don't fertilize any of my plants. So then I know they're all not fertilized. So for example, this one, I'm dying to fertilize this one, but I just don't have the time to fertilize everything else. I'm just on hold. So when I'm going to fertilize, it will be all of them in one day rather than me doing bits and pieces. The reason I get delayed because I use rainwater, and sometimes I'm just thinking, oh, I have to bring it indoors, change the temperature and then use it, and I just become a bit lazy and I don't do it. But that's really key thing. I really hope that this was informative, and that is the whole point of this video, from a plant lover to a plant lover, because we don't want our plants to die and we just want them to do well. Thank you so much, and if it was helpful, please click like. Bye bye.